Detrich, get up. Detrich, wake up. I can't find Lizzie. It's a Saturday morning in May 2019 when Jessica Whipple woke up to find the front door wide open and her daughter, Elizabeth Shelley, not in her bed. She shook her live-in boyfriend awake to assist her. The two went outside to see if she was in the yard or around the property, but nothing. Detrich then called the police. Evidence would be found in nearby locations, but no sign of the little girl. Thousands of hours would be poured into the search for the 5-year-old. Then, about a week after she was reported missing, her body would be discovered. The crime was so horrific it galvanized the community to call for the death penalty. It is possible that the details of the crime, as outlined by the medical examiner's report, will be the worst you've ever heard in a child murder case. I've debated the merits of publicizing it, and I've decided to do so based simply on the fact that glossing over them risks diminishing the severity of the matter. As such, the following is a story only the devil could concoct. Logan, Utah, a city in Cache County. It's in the northern part of the state, about 82 miles or 132 kilometers north of Salt Lake City. It has a bunch of spots for fishing, biking, hiking, skiing, golfing. I mean, it's Utah. But the most important thing about Logan today, no offense Logan, is that it played host to a terrible story that people still talk about to this day. It's 9 p.m. on Friday, May 24, 2019. Detrich Black, the live-in boyfriend of Jessica Whipple, has just tucked the daughter he shares with his girlfriend, as well as his stepdaughter, Elizabeth Shelley, who Jessica had from a previous relationship. Before bed, 5-year-old Elizabeth put on her teal skirt with white lace and a 4th of July-themed red tank top. After the kids are securely in bed, Detrich goes back to the lounge area where he plops down next to Jessica. Finally, the kids are now in bed, which means they can all chill. It's a fun night. They pop open some bottles and pass the night by drinking some alcohol and playing video games. A couple of hours later, Jessica decides she's done. She gets up and prepares for bed. Sometime after midnight, Detrich also gets up and goes to his bedroom. At around 2 a.m. is when he takes a quick peek to see that Elizabeth is still sleeping in her bed. Detrich and Jessica are now in bed. They get a little frisky before they say goodnight to each other and pass out. It's 9:30 a.m. the next morning. Jessica slowly opens her eyes as the sun hits her bedroom window and pierces the thin cover of her eyelids. She sees Detrich in bed and gets up to start her day, but she immediately realizes something is off. This isn't normally how she starts her morning. Jessica doesn't often wake up on her own. That's because Elizabeth, the early riser in the household, would poke and prod her mom to get up. Perhaps this is just an anomaly and Elizabeth has slept in. No way, not the energetic Elizabeth. When Jessica goes to check on her daughter, she notices the front door is wide open. Realizing what this could mean, the adrenaline kicks. She runs to see where Elizabeth is, but she's not in her bed. She looks around the room, her eyes darting. Nothing. The couple then runs outside and looks around the property. Again, nothing. Detrich then starts a panicked 911 call.
Okay, what's the problem there?
My daughter is missing.
Okay, how old is she?
She's 5.
Okay, what's her name?
Elizabeth Shelley.
What's she wearing?
Last night when she went to bed, she was wearing a red tank top and blue jeans.
What time did you last see her?
Last night when I went to bed.
What time?
We woke up. I went to bed at, I don't know, like 1 or 2 in the morning, probably.
Okay.
Elizabeth Jessica Shelley was born on December 10, 2013, to Jessica and Weston Shelley. She was described as courageous, curious, polite, social, and selfless. She loved picking flowers, cleaning up litter, protecting worms, and watching butterflies. She had a habit of blowing kisses to ambulances. Her favorite color was the rainbow because she couldn't pick one. One of her favorite places was the Logan Library. She was looking forward to starting kindergarten, but she would never get that opportunity. A massive amount of human and financial resources are poured into the search of the little girl affectionately known as Lizzie, who stood at just 3 feet and 6 inches tall, weighed 40 pounds, and had brown eyes and brown hair. It wouldn't take long before investigators would find several key pieces of evidence. A consent search of the entire block between 400 to 500 West and Center Street to 100 South yielded an empty Bapst Blue Ribbon 24-ounce beer can found by the homeowner of 470 West Center Street. The homeowner stated that he found the beer can in his garbage bin on the morning of the 25th of May and moved it to his recycle bin. He said he did not drink Bapst Blue Ribbon beer and that it didn't belong to him. About 50 yards west of the parking lot of the Bear River Charter School, investigators would find Elizabeth's blood-stained teal skirt with white lace that was hastily buried under some dirt and bark. Next to the clothing was a small concrete block that had blood on it. Near the northwest corner of the Bear River School parking lot, located at 75 South, 400 West, investigators would also find a blood-covered white PVC pipe with a bloody partial palm print. They also discovered some drops of blood on a black plastic garden barrier. At Lizzie's home, investigators searching for evidence noticed there was a missing knife from a block set of kitchen knives with the name Living Kit. At the school parking lot, near where the PVC pipe was found, lay a knife. It had been broken near its hilt and had blood on several places of its blade. It looked as though it was part of a set. The branding on the knife was still visible. It was a Living Kit.
Any idea where she might have gone? Any family members nearby?
Her uncle, her mom's brother slept over. He's gone too, but his skateboard shit's there, but...
What's the uncle's name that stayed the night?
Alex.
Alright, and what's Alex's last name?
Whipple.
It's Friday, September 1, 2017, and Jessica's brother, Alexander Whipple, is lodging at his grandfather Bill Whipple's home in Providence, Utah. Alexander had been having a rough go with his life at this point. The 19-year-old was struggling with mental health issues as he battled with homelessness and had fallen hard on drugs, alcohol, and crime. He'd been a bit of a nomad when Bill allowed him to stay at his home while he was away. After 10 p.m. on this night, Alexander decides to rob Bill. He ransacks the home and takes what he thinks are valuable items to sell. After he's done, he runs outside and across the street. There, Brandon Wallen had just returned from his shift at work at 11 p.m. Brandon told police that when he pulled up to his home, he saw his 2007 Toyota FJ Cruiser in the driveway. He went inside briefly before stepping out and seeing the car had disappeared. Brandon said the keys were inside the car for convenience, according to a police report. Police observed tire marks 40 feet long on Brandon's yard, which significantly damaged the lawn. Alexander then led Utah Highway Patrol officers on a 40-mile high-speed chase through Salt Lake County with a stolen car. Officers in Orem were able to spike his tires, which forced him to exit the Toyota and try fleeing on foot before officers caught him. The officers observed that he'd been driving on a denied license, had bloodshot eyes, smelled of alcohol, and had trouble maintaining his balance. He refused field sobriety tests and a blood draw. He was charged with 9 offenses, including theft of property, driving under the influence, alcohol-restricted driver, an open container in the vehicle, driving on denied license, speeding, failure to maintain a lane, failure to respond to officer's signal to stop, and failing to stop at command of the officer. He pleaded guilty to theft, failing to respond to the command of police, and driving under the influence. His other charges were dismissed. He was sentenced to prison in March, which was suspended. He was given jail time and was given 5 years of probation. He later broke the terms of his probation, which triggered a warrant for his arrest. His family said it was in relation to him maintaining employment. Alexander William Whipple, born on August 23, 1997, had what was described as a horrible childhood. It is alleged he was abused and neglected and was abandoned by his mother when he was a kid. By May 2019, Alexander had been in Brigham City when he reached out to his sister Jessica for help. She picked him up and brought him to Logan, according to Bill. Quote, "It was a fateful, fateful thing, and she has beaten herself for it," Bill would later say. Bill said Alexander had previously refused mental health treatment. He recalled to KSL TV News a conversation he had with Alexander. Quote, "He looked at me one day and said, 'Grandpa, am I crazy?' To which Bill responded, 'Yes, I believe you have problems.'" Nearly 4 hours before Lizzie is reported missing, at 6:46 a.m. on a fairly cold Saturday, a surveillance camera captures a hooded man walking along 700 West near First South. He had appeared to be wet from the waist down. At 1:30 p.m., he is spotted at the Hiram gas station, a 15-minute drive south of Lizzie's house, buying cigarettes and beer. Then, at approximately 3 p.m. that day, police would spot the same man walking in the area of Hiram and Mount Sterling, near 2400 West, 8000 South, with some personal items, including a baseball bat and a pipe normally used for narcotics. It was Alexander.
What's happening, man? You're kinda out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
What's your name, dude?
Is that important?
Yeah, it is. What's your name? Identify yourself, and you can be on your way. Because we're trying to find somebody.
That's not me. No.
Why not?
Well, this is rude. I don't even know you. Like, can I not enjoy my scenes?
Right now, no.
Why?
Because I have to know who you are.
But you don't even...
I'm being really patient with you, man.
I didn't do anything wrong.
Stop.
Stop right now.
Put your hands on the back of your head right now, Alex.
Right now.
Right now. If you don't put your hands behind your back right now, we're putting you on the ground.
I don't know you.
Okay,
Don't care.
well talk to me then.
You don't
Okay?
even know me.
Okay, tell me who you are. To the ground.
Okay.
Why are you hurting me?
Just
Roll
roll
on
on
your
your stomach. Get on your stomach now. Okay, Alex. Where's the girl at?
What?
Where's the girl?
Who?
Your niece. Your niece. 5-year-old niece.
Alexander was arrested on 6 charges, including failure to disclose identity, failing to stop at the command of law enforcement, possession of controlled substance, marijuana or spice, use of drugs, and transaction of a dangerous weapon for a restricted person. Meanwhile, thousands of hours have been spent by law enforcement and volunteers searching for Lizzie. These were cold and rainy days, with people operating on barely any sleep or food. Food, water, and resources were donated by local businesses to support the search. For a week, it seemed like the entire state came together to find her. As this is happening, Alexander was taken to the Logan City Police Department for questioning. Before the interview began, Detective Matt Woods removed his handcuffs. The detective then left the room briefly, at which point Alexander began licking his hands to clean them. He was then placed back in handcuffs to preserve possible evidence. Alexander initially denied going over to his sister's house on the night of May 24, but eventually admitted he was there, and that he didn't see the kids because they had already been in bed.
So your sister Jess, when's the last time you saw her?
Yesterday.
Yesterday?
Yeah.
Where at?
Around town.
Did you hang out with them at all yesterday? Yeah.
A little bit.
Did they have their kids with them?
No.
No. Trying my best to find her.
What? My niece is missing?
She is.
What? So you're questioning me because my freaking niece is missing?
Yeah, she's missing.
Swear to God, if that little girl gone somewhere. I don't know. I hope nothing happened to my sister, baby.
Well, I think your sister's baby's hurt.
Don't say that. You're gonna find her.
Tell me where she's at then.
What?
What if something bad's happened to her?
don't know. I can't do anything right now about it. I didn't even know that was happening, and now I'm sitting in handcuffs and I can't go look for my little niece. Like, this isn't making me feel happy.
I'm sure it's not.
Look, I don't know how much more questioning that you want to question me, but I basically told you where it was and where I went.
He said he had left the residence before sunrise to visit Hiram and enjoy the scenery. When asked why he left the front door open when he left, he said he didn't remember leaving it open. He also said he didn't need his phone or skateboard, which he left at the residence. At some point, Alexander opened up about how evil the world is and spoke about his struggles as a child and how his family has treated him horribly throughout his life. He noted that alcohol makes him, quote, blackout, at which point he does, quote, criminal things, though he didn't elaborate on what those things were. As he was conducting the interview, Detective Woods noticed dark-colored stains on Alexander's pants that looked like dried blood. He also saw that he had several cuts on his fingers, which were filthy. After some time, Detective Woods called a break in the questioning. By this point, a search warrant applying to Alexander's body was obtained. That involved a DNA swab of his cheeks, as well as seizure of his clothing, watch, and shoes. A rapid DNA test was conducted on the material obtained. Lizzie's DNA was found on the living kit knife, Alexander's watch, and his hooded sweatshirt. The right palm print on the PVC pipe was Alexander's. The beer can obtained from the recycle bin was also found to be Alexander's. Prosecutors were satisfied with the evidence and filed a 5-count charging document in Cache County Court. When the document was filed, it had been 96 hours since Lizzie was declared missing. The cold weather hampered the search for Lizzie's body. According to Detective Woods, the average temperature was 50 degrees Fahrenheit or 10 degrees Celsius, and it was raining for most of the search. That meant cadaver dogs passed by Lizzie's body, who was located just a quarter mile or half a block from her home. Had the body been found by the search team, it may have changed the course of Alexander's life. That's because when Alexander caught wind that prosecutors were preparing to seek the death penalty against him, he wanted a deal. On or around the 5th day of the search, he caved and agreed to tell the state where the body was in exchange for sparing his life.
In fact, through Alex's attorney, we were provided a map of an area where we discovered human remains at about, it was a little after 2 o'clock, where we were actually able to find and confirm human remains. This is obviously the break that we've been waiting for. This is the moment that we had hoped would come, obviously not in the, certainly not the way we wanted it to happen. We certainly would have wanted to bring Lizzie home. The negotiation was simply to take the death penalty off the table in trade for information that would lead us to Lizzie's body.
And so it was there, between the foundation of a shed, a tree, and a fence, that Lizzie's body, lying face down, was discovered, covered in debris, dirt, and sticks. On August 13, 2019, Alexander pleaded guilty to aggravated murder, child kidnapping, rape, and sodomy on a child. You heard that right. On the evening of Friday, May 24, 2019, Jessica had been chatting with Alexander over Facebook Messenger and invited him over to drink and play video games with her and Detrich. She had known Alexander was struggling, and she wanted to be a good sister. He had been staying at Jessica's stepmom's house until this point. Alexander arrived between 10 and 10:30 p.m. after the children were tucked in, and began drinking beer and rum. As the night dragged on, Jessica told Alexander that he could stay the night on her couch. Jessica and Detrich were horny, Alexander would say, and the two went to their bedroom. He turned in for the night on the couch because he said he didn't want to hear them. Jessica said at the time that it looked like Alexander was going to pass out. But pass out, he certainly didn't. At some point after 2 a.m. on the morning of Saturday, May 25, Alexander was upset. He was deep into his alcohol consumption, he felt pathetic, and he would tell you that he felt wronged. Throughout his entire life, he felt he wasn't afforded a chance of success. So how does Alexander deal with it? The exact sequence of events isn't clear, but at some point he went into the kitchen and grabbed the living kit knife, went into the bedroom where Lizzie slept and picked her up, opened the front door, and walked out. He left behind his cell phone and skateboard, which he used to get around. That's because Alexander, of course, didn't have a car. So he took Lizzie to a location, very likely where they found her body. Under the moonlight, an unspeakable crime happened. Lizzie had been beaten in the face and body with something, as evidenced by the deep bruising to her cheeks, nose, eyes, and lower left abdomen. She suffered trauma to the top of her head and a laceration to her right temple. It is unclear with what he did this kind of damage. It could have been one of the cinder blocks, maybe the PVC pipe, or his fists. Alexander had actually tried to kill Lizzie by cutting her throat, as evidenced by the superficial slash wound to her neck, but it was not deep enough to cause her demise. She suffered internal bruising, trauma, and tearing. Lizzie did not go easily. None of the aforementioned injuries killed her. It was only until Lizzie, who by now was on her stomach, was stabbed in the back that the fatal wound was inflicted. The blade cut through 2 back ribs before going through the top lobe of her left lung and stopped on the backside of the first front rib. The medical examiner estimated that she was fully conscious for 3 to 5 minutes after this injury because it took time for her chest cavity to be filled with blood from the internal bleeding. Lizzie Shelley died by drowning in her own blood. After violating her, he had to silence her. If there's any silver lining, it's that she would have lost consciousness at some point, according to the examiner's report. The 40-pound Lizzie experienced every agonizing moment of the attack. She would have been terrified, confused, and in severe pain. She trusted Alexander as nieces would trust their uncles. It was the ultimate act of betrayal. She didn't know of any of his past issues, nor did she need to. She had nothing to do with them. She was a kid who loved people. She was his sister's kid. The motive is up for debate. Grandpa Bill says it was revenge for his broken childhood. Quote, "I think he wanted to hurt the family. He wanted to lash out, and this was perhaps his whole motive," he told KSL-TV. Despite those issues, Bill said he never thought he'd be a murderer. "We were just blindsided," he said. Alexander's defense attorney emphasized his troubled upbringing and said the, quote, "train wreck had been building for years." The court in the case accepted the possibility that those circumstances could have been a driver behind the crime, but added it was no excuse for it, and that it didn't buy his blackout excuses. Quote, "If someone had intervened in Mr. Whipple's life when he was an abused and forgotten little boy to show him love, perhaps a different path would have been taken," according to the statement from the court. "I'm not placing the blame on anyone other than Mr. Whipple for this appalling murder. But children are not born murderers, and we must do all we can as a community, as we did after this awful crime, to prevent them from happening in the first place." 21-year-old Alexander William Whipple will spend the rest of his life in prison with no chance of parole. He was handed an additional 75 years running consecutively to a sentence of life without parole in September 2019. The court called the sentence symbolic because of its extraordinary length, but deemed it appropriate. Quote, "There is nothing in the criminal justice system that is equal to the gravity of sexually assaulting a child and then taking that child's life from her," the sentencing memorandum said. The statement from the court added the following: "The time has come for you to begin to pay for what you did. You will never see the light of day. You will never breathe free air again. I am genuinely sorry for you. This tragedy touches everyone, even you. But what you did was so abhorrent and vile that you must spend the rest of your life in prison, away from the victims in this community that you unspeakably terrorized." The court acknowledged the outpouring of love and support shown to the family of the victim in coming together to search or assist in the search for Lizzie. Lizzie had effectively united people who may have had their differences. She brought people together. It's exactly what Lizzie would want to see. Cache County Attorney James Swink called the case the worst he's seen in the 22 years he's been involved in the criminal justice system. He said Alexander has always used the excuse that he blacks out due to drugs and alcohol to hide from his actions. The story angered people so much, they created a petition to institute the death penalty for him. Jessica didn't attend the hearing. Instead, she elected to stand at a nearby building and honor her daughter by releasing butterflies from a box covered in purple glitter. Quote, "The loss of our Lizzie leaves a space in my heart that can't be filled," she said, according to Deseret News. "I would give anything to be reunited with her, to hug her, and hold her one more time." Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to listen to me narrate the story, which was based on secondary and primary sources. Nod goes to the reporters who are on top of these stories, and to you guys for engaging in the subject matter. There isn't much else to say about this, so be well, feed the poor, and of course, don't be Alexander Whipple.